Hello, everybody. Anthony Crane here with Pocket Coach. And today we're going to cover an experiment called Scrum, Kanban, or SAFe. I'll get my 5-minute timer going and let's get into it. So what problem are we trying to solve? New teams should probably pick a good shoe for being an agile team. And the most common shoes are Scrum, Kanban, and SAFe. So they need some guidance as to, hey, how do we know which one to start with? So that's the problem. Hypothesis is that if you chat with a coach on the pros and cons of all three models, you should be able to make a good choice. Now, you may not have access to a coach, in which case, hopefully this video will help you to do that without one. Time frame. It generally takes 6 months before you kind of pivot off of your approach altogether, but just after a couple of weeks, you should be already experimenting and changing the basic model that you start with, okay? And one of the things here, it says that this will help the team make the choice of their starting shoe. So if you haven't seen the shoe Hari video yet, please go check that out. But basically, it says that when you first start something, you learn the rules the way they were intended to be, but you get to break those rules soon. So during shoe, you follow the rules. During hot, now you break the rules and do whatever you think is right. So you can watch that video to learn more. So the idea here is that it might be 6 months before you abandon that shoe for your own flavor of agile or try a different one. But right away, you can already start breaking in individual ideas. Typical outcomes, you see an increase in your team KPIs. So especially engagement, you should be better engagement, but also productivity, predictability, and quality. Skill growth. Okay, so what do you got to do? For this experiment, you talk to a coach, you learn the differences, and then you made a choice and you stuck with that shoe to see what you think of it for real. So let's get into the advice then. So I have this asset here. How do we pick our team shoe? So first off, we have to remember that this is all based on the Agile Manifesto. And so if you haven't read the Agile Manifesto, please go do that. That's like minimum criteria for any Agile team. Any team can adopt the principles. You don't need Scrum, you don't need Kanban, you don't need SAFe. It's just a commitment to things like self-organization, transparency, collaboration, being trusting, being face-to-face, having respect for people, sustainable pace, early and continuous delivery, and having an openness to change and being experimental, like being people who like to experiment, right? That's all you're doing when you commit to the Agile Manifesto. What Scrum, Kanban, and SAFe do is that they help give you ideas to turn that into practice. So it gives you events, it gives you roles, right? That you can use to embrace those ideas without you having to invent it on your own. So for new teams, it's a great way to start. Now Scrum, so let's look at the differences. So Scrum is much more prescriptive. It has a lot more guardrails and a lot more guidance. So it has events that you're supposed to do. It has roles you're supposed to have. It has assets you're supposed to create and use. So a lot more, structure to it. The criteria that might push you towards Scrum is pretty straightforward. One, if you have an Agile coach, that helps a lot because they'll know how to do all the things. If you don't have an Agile coach, you'll have to study up and then, fail fast. The team, if you're the kind of team who's given a requirements document, Scrum actually kind of works nicely because you can decompose that requirements document into a backlog and then just start flowing work. And the other thing about the requirements document like that is that the requirements tend to be related to each other. If you're a team that has many requirements that kind of are related to each other to an overall product, then Scrum is a really nice way to plan a horizon and nail those time boxes and get predictability under your belt. If you have sprints that take up to 4 weeks, 1 to 4 weeks, 2 is pretty much everyone's favorite these days. That's again, the 2-week planning horizon. And finally, if you want to move into a very proven process, Scrum is the most proven process, right? It's been around a long time. People love it. So that's Scrum. Now, Kanban is a lot less prescriptive. In fact, Kanban tries to meet you where you're at. With Scrum, they're giving you a new methodology. With Kanban, they're saying, you know what? Keep your current methodology and then use these Kanban practices to tweak and improve using metrics, right? So it's a really kind of cool idea that you start with where you're at. What might make you choose this? Well, first off, if you want to keep your current process and just improve on it, that would be a reason to do Kanban. If you want to throw out that process and start with a really good tight shoe, then you might want to go with Scrum. The other thing is if your team already works in the form of tickets, right? Like a service center, whatever, that's what Kanban is really good at, is flowing tickets like that. So that would be a really good call for you to do Kanban. Now, one last thing, there is a video which talks about the difference of Scrum versus Kanban. I have a link to it right here. I'm just going to bring it up in the background. So this is the screen. It's called Scrum versus Kanban. What's the difference? I really like this video because Most of these videos tell you that Scrum is better or Kanban is better. Neither is better. They're both good for different reasons. I think that this one did a good job of staying neutral. And I only saw one thing I didn't like. And so right here, you'll see the word agile coach. For some reason, they say that the person who guides the practices in Scrum is a Scrum master, but in Kanban is an agile coach. I have never heard that in any other book I've read, any other coach I've talked to. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's not wrong. It's just, it's completely something that's foreign to me. So that was the one thing I found bizarre. But otherwise, I really, really liked his animation, his tone of voice. So by all means, watch this video, maybe throw him a like. Okay, so that's my time box. I'm going to reset my timer. So what am I going to do now? If you have gotten your fill, you can take off. What I want to finish up with is safe. So if you're not interested in safe, by all means, sign off. But in just a minute or two here, I can get this one done. So when it comes to safe, the criteria here is quite simple. You have more than 50 people trying to coordinate work, 50 to hundreds to even thousands of people. If you need to coordinate the work across hundreds or thousands of people, like, hey, we're all going to go to Mars, right? I need to know what everybody's doing if we're going to get to Mars successfully. And yet 5 people can't do that. 10 people can't do that. So if you have more than 50 people, if you're working towards something together, if you have dependencies on each other, that's when you want to do safe. But do note that each team will still need, so let's say you have 50 people, you might make that 6 teams. All 6 teams, each one will choose whether they want to do Scrum or Kanban as a team. So you still have that choice at the team level, but they're also committing to planning together on a cadence and letting each other know when things get, when dependencies get messed up and all that kind of stuff. So that's it. That's my guide to how do you pick safe, Scrum or Kanban. Just to recap, you would pick Scrum if you have kind of a bigger thing that you're trying to get done and planning horizons are important to you. You pick Kanban if you have a bunch of unrelated tickets that you're just trying to process and you want to get fast at that. And you might want to watch that video, which is really cute. And if you have more than 50 people that need to plan together and understand each other, then you pick safe. All right, so my name is Anthony Crane. I hope you found this recording useful. Let me know.